The woman in the photograph is not a model. Her name was once whispered in certain circles as Mama Laveau II. In 1993, she appeared for the first time at a private couture event in Paris, held inside the catacombs. When the lights came up, she stood motionless on a runway made of polished black marble. Her dress was not fabric. It was living, breathing leather stitched from the skins of 17 men. The leather still twitched. Witnesses saw faint faces pressing outward from the seams, mouths open in silent screams. She never spoke. She didn't need to. Anyone who looked into her eyes signed over their life expectancy. The silence that followed the Geneva surgeon's disappearance lasted exactly 7 months, long enough for the next blood moon to rise. On the night of July 13, 2026, the catacombs beneath Montparnasse were opened again. No invitations were sent. No blindfolds were distributed. The guests simply knew to arrive at 11:47 p.m., as though the date and hour had been stitched into their dreams months earlier. This time, there was no runway, no marble, no lights. The chamber was lit only by a single iron brazier, filled with something that burned without smoke or heat, black flame that cast long, twitching shadows. The 33 attendees stood in a perfect circle. They wore no masks, no disguises. Their faces were known. 3 senators, 2 central bankers, a tech billionaire whose company had just been awarded a $14 billion defense contract. Mama Laveau II stood in the center. She had changed. The leather that once clung like a second skin now hung looser, sagging in places as though the bodies beneath it were shrinking away. New seams had appeared, fresh, red, still weeping a thin black fluid that dripped in slow beads to the stone floor. The braided veins around her torso pulsed faster than before, no longer in rhythm with any heartbeat, but with something slower, deeper, like the breathing of the earth itself. She raised both arms. The leather stretched audibly, a wet creaking that echoed off the skulls lining the walls. No one spoke. She did not need to command. One by one, the circle stepped forward. Each person removed a single item from their pocket. A small glass vial containing a single drop of their own blood. They poured it into the brazier. The black flame flared violet for a moment, then settled again. When the last vial was emptied, Mama Laveau II tilted her head back. Her mouth opened wider than any human jaw should allow. From inside came a sound. Not a scream, not a voice, but the collective exhalation of 43 throats speaking at once in perfect unison. The pyramid requires balance. The brazier exploded upward in a column of violet fire that did not burn the ceiling, but instead spread outward along the stone like liquid mercury, outlining every skull, every crack, every carved sigil. When the fire touched the leather dress, the garment convulsed. Faces that had been subtle before now tore free. They did not scream. They laughed, a low, bubbling laughter that vibrated in the guests' chests until their ribs ached. Then the leather began to shed. Not fall away, shed like a snake discarding old skin, but in long, continuous sheets that floated upward, weightless, coiling around the nearest guest. The first man, a Swiss banker, did not resist. His skin beneath it bubbled, then smoothed, then tightened. His face changed last. When it finished, he was no longer the banker. He was her. Not a copy, not a duplicate. Her. The same black eyes. 33 versions of Mama Laveau II emerged. They walked out in single file. And somewhere beneath the city, in the dark between the bones, the original skin hung empty on an iron hook, waiting. Because even the ledger needs room to grow. The next night in Michel was quieter than any before. Elise had not returned home. She had spent the hours wandering the empty streets, barefoot and coatless, until her feet bled and her lungs burned from the cold. She ended up on the porch of Mr. Harrow's house, sitting on the top step with her back against the door. The old man never opened it. He never needed to. He simply sat on the other side, separated by 3 inches of wood, and listened to her breathe. At 3:17 a.m., the streetlights dimmed as though the grid itself exhaled. Elise felt it first in her spine, a slow, rolling pressure, like someone pressing a thumb between her shoulder blades and pushing inward. The porch light above her clicked on by itself. It was not warm yellow. It was violet, cold, surgical, the color of bruising. In that light, she saw her reflection in the window glass beside the door. Her face looked wrong. Not distorted, just delayed. The reflection blinked half a second after she did. The mouth smiled when hers did not. She whispered, "Stop." The reflection whispered back, perfectly synchronized now, "I'm not the one who started." From inside Mr. Harrow's house came a soft creak, floorboard settling, or something heavier shifting weight. Then a voice, dry as old paper, spoke through the wood. "You opened the hatch. You let it taste you. Now it wants the whole pattern." Elise pressed her forehead to the door. "What pattern?" "The one it's been sewing since the day you moved in. Every sock you lost, every button, every night you thought you were alone in the bed. It was measuring, collecting, learning how your skin fits over bone." She felt it then. The itch. Not on the surface. Beneath. 1,000 tiny pulls, as though threads had been looped under her epidermis while she slept and were now being drawn tight. Her left forearm twitched. The skin there rippled once, like water disturbed by a pebble. She looked down. A single black thread, thinner than a hair, had pushed through her pore and was slowly stitching itself in a straight line toward her wrist. She clawed at it. The thread did not break. It tightened. The skin around it puckered inward, forming the faint outline of a buttonhole. Mr. Harrow spoke again, softer now, almost kind. "It's not angry. It's patient. It wants symmetry. You left the house empty. That's imbalance. The street needs both sides to match." Elise tried to scream. Her throat closed. Not choked, stitched. She felt the thread loop behind her vocal cords and pull them shut like a drawstring purse. The reflection in the window leaned closer. It was no longer delayed. It was ahead. It raised a hand and pressed its palm to the glass from the inside. Elise felt the pressure on her own palm even though she had not lifted her arm. The glass warmed. Then it softened. Then it parted like water. The reflection stepped through. It was not a copy. It was the continuation. Same height, same hair, same bloodied feet. But the eyes were violet now, and the skin had a faint sheen. It wore nothing. The threads that had been working beneath Elise's skin were already visible, black lines running in neat parallel rows. The reflection knelt in front of her. It reached out and touched her cheek with fingers that felt like cool leather. "You're the lining," it said in her own voice. "I'm the shell. Together we make the garment whole." Behind them, Mr. Harrow's door opened a crack. The old man stepped out. He was not wearing his bathrobe. He was wearing nothing at all except the same black threads, the same neat rows, the same faint sheen. His eyes were violet, too. He looked down at Elise and said, "The street was missing one. Now it's even." The reflection stood. It took Elise's hand and helped her to her feet. The threads were already pulling her spine straight. They walked down the porch steps together. The reflection led. Elise followed. Their footsteps matched exactly, one set of prints in the snow. The other houses on the street had their porch lights on now, all violet, all doors open a crack, all windows showing reflections that were no longer delayed. The street was complete. And somewhere beneath Elise's house, in the crawl space she had left open, the original skin waited on its iron hook, empty, patient, folded neatly. Because even the ledger needs room to grow. And the next owner would arrive soon. The realtor had already listed the property again. The description read, "Charming 2-story home, quiet street. Previous owner left in a hurry. You'll be fine."